I know. I love how much credit No Regret gets for all of Scarlet's victories. It's like, oh my God, guys, No Regret just taught Scarlet how to 12-fool. I'm like, I think she might have known how to do that before.
Yeah, I think she knew the build, but who knows? Anyways, we're gonna start off on Ice and Chrome for game number 1 here. In the top right, there's the blue Protoss for Team Roddy. He's Goblin.
And down over here on the bottom left-hand side of the map, we have the red Zerg player. It is Team Clash's Reynor.
I really like the Tony Hawk sound effects that go along with the introduction.
I feel like I'm back in the 90s. It's great. My nostalgia is just going out the wazoo, which is funny because neither of these players were alive in the 90s. They were actually both born in 2002
my God.
And are basically 17 or 18 years old right now.
Can you not do that? Can you just stop? Oh my God, you're so right.
I don't know if you've noticed, I'm here to disrupt the broadcast and make both you and Wardy feel uncomfortable.
That makes me feel so uncomfortable. Good God. Yeah, we kind of, everyone talks about Reynor because of how young he was when he started to be really, really, really damn good, like WCS Montreal 3 years ago at this point. Oh God. Oh no, it was 2 years ago. It was 2018. Sorry, no. So 2 years ago. He's just kind of he really burst onto the scene. He was already good, but then he really burst onto the scene by almost taking down Cyril's, quad win of the WCSs. So we always talk about how young he is, and then we kind of just don't really talk about, how young these other guys are. Goblin is already this good and he's that young. So there's still a lot of potential for him, even if he doesn't do particularly well in this tournament. I feel like, StarCraft fans and even us as casters are a little cruel sometimes, where it's like, oh, Clem didn't win IM Katowice. Is he actually overhyped? Hello? But yeah, Goblin's
Cyril
doing
dropped
really well.
3 maps this tournament. Is he washed up? And I'm like, he won the tournament.
Yeah, of course, it's a fun joke, but then some people are serious, and you're like, oh, God.
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. I wholeheartedly agree with everything that you just said and how it is kind of unfortunate how we have not just Reynor coming up, and I know Clem is finally getting a lot more attention and everything, but there was this whole generation of 16-year-olds or 15-year-olds actually right before they turned 16 and could participate in a lot of these premier WCS events back in the day. And now they're kind of finally here. They've been growing into their place in the scene, but it was really mostly Reynor that got the attention. But I kind of consider there was this generation of really, really talented StarCraft players, and Goblin was one of them, Clem being the other, and Future I would consider the North American version of them. So it's cool to see both Goblin and Clem, and even Future to an extent, kind of rising up recently. But Zombie Grub. Team Roddy's Goblin opening up with the Phoenix.
I mean, okay. I'm not sure we need to stop the conversation just to note an opening.
It's every single time it happens now, it has to be pointed out oh man, did Roddy tell him to make this individual Phoenix?
I mean, he's making a second one, so maybe he did tell him to do this. Oh no.
Possible.
It could be a fake. I mean, I don't think it would be. But it is worth mentioning. Now, we've seen that Reynor has overload speed. It's probably not worth even trying and continue faking it. But if it is going to be actual Phoenix, then is it going to actually be double Stargate? And hey, there it is. Reynor's going to get back in there and get a double check on that.
Now, is this the kind of style that you were talking about where you could see Goblin kind of catching Reynor off guard with something like a double Stargate? Or were you thinking more along the lines of adept printers and that kind of stuff?
Adept printers go can't roll my R's. I can't do it as well as other people. But I don't know about adept. I think that Goblin is just trying to take control of the game here. It is always funny though when I see people try to take control of the game with Phoenix against Reynor specifically. I think double Stargate Phoenix is a very uncomfortable setup for the Zerg player, but Reynor is he's still mostly well known for his Ling style, right? So whether or not he was already planning on going into a Ling style, if he sees this and is oh heck yeah, I'm going to go Lings, we're not going to doubt that he's uncomfortable with this style. And heck, I would even say that some of the times where Reynor was looking the best, he was on everyone's radar, was when double Stargate Phoenix was quite popular. So I think he'll be quite okay here. And actually, he's already going into a bunch of Lings trying to get cancel on that third Nexus.
Yeah, and this is the kind of frustrating thing when you go for so many Phoenix is that, yeah, you don't exactly have enough lifts to kill off all of the Zerglings. It just doesn't really work out super well. And usually a pro player in this kind of situation, opening Stargate, would have an Oracle or something, but now that first Stalker is most assuredly going to go down at the wall. Sentry gets warped in to help Force Field at some point, but that's just way too many Zerglings. And there's no additional wall coming in behind this.
Yeah, I don't know about this Goblin. He's actually letting them all through. What's going on? The Force Field is a little bit late, and yeah, that second wall had to come down a little bit sooner because that way it's just going to be a second weak wall, right? +1's not going to finish, and Reynor was going for a lot more than just a cancel on the third Nexus. He's going for the win. 20, 30, and more Lings are on the way, but the second wall seems like it's going to be good, and Reynor has to get back into droning.
Oh, really, really scary moment there for Goblin. Does end up losing the Cyber Core, so no +1 air weapons, but these Phoenix don't need that, and these numbers to try and pick off a couple of drones. Managed to snipe off 4 of them, and hey, that third base still alive during all this because Reynor was effectively going for the kill there, going for the natural. But with a lot of those Banelings morphing in, we'll see how things progress. The Phoenix are still staying on the other side of the map, so they're not here to lift the Banelings.
Yeah, this is going to be too late to come back. They are just depowering the pylons on the third. I actually thought they might go for the natural. One Adept is going to fall. The Oracle will help take care of quite a few Lings, but there's just so many of them, and I think they might just be able to get that third Nexus. The Phoenix aren't even trying to come back home. They know that third Nexus is probably going to be a goner, and there's not much to do about it. Even a second Oracle coming in here. If there's a shield battery, you're powering the Nexus, or a third Oracle as well, but they're just too late.
And that Nexus is going to end up falling. Remember that Reynor, even though has been taking a little bit of damage from these Phoenix, snipes off one of them as well. Oh, man. Goblin cannot afford to lose Phoenix right now. Reynor's on 4 bases. He has a massive queen count. This is such a good spot right now, it feels like, for Reynor.
And it really is. And Goblin's really been thrown off for his macro game. You know, obviously he meant to have a third Nexus that was building probes, but also just his build order's been thrown off. You know, he kind of had to account for it, build oracles when he was probably working on a transition. Only now does he finally finish up that Twilight Council and the Forge. I mean, his probe count doesn't look so bad. It's just not going to be very efficient mining. So adding on all his production first and foremost. I mean, the good news is Reynor doesn't really have an answer to the Phoenix so far, but Queen Sport's actually been doing a fine job.
Yeah, one thing I do like about how this Phoenix has been darting in, they do typically pick off the workers in gas as well, which is a little bit more APM to spend for Reynor to replace them. And he actually has missed it a few times. There was 0 workers in one of his gas geysers for a while. There's 1 worker in another gas geyser. So I do feel like there are little things that Goblin is doing well to try and come back in this game, but it is still just so much to ask for.
Yeah, if it was like... If Reynor was just a little bit worse, you know, if he wasn't focused firing down the Phoenix, if he didn't have the peace of mind to grab his 4th base and build Spore Crawlers immediately, because of course his creep spread's kind of getting crazy, then you know, maybe the Oracles can find something, even 10 drones for the damage, but they really haven't. So 4 Oracles not seeming like they're too good, just a big ol' attack getting prepared, but we know Reynor has +1 on his melee. We know that he has the access to Banelings, although he does not have Baneling speed. Not sure it's going to matter. He's even tackling Zealots with these Lings. Seems a little overeager.
Yeah, well, I actually just realized the Roach weren't only just now finished. So there's 9 Roaches on the way right now, Zombie Guard, but those Archons are going to be providing so much value versus a pure Ling Baneling army. Only the Queens are really going to be able to contest with those. So Reynor does have to be a bit cautious here. Goblin is setting up for a somewhat strong push here. He's got to make some magic happen, though.
Ooh, he's going to be very careful. Good pullback on those Zealots. His Warp Prison's in a pretty safe place. All those Phoenix lifts. Oh. They realize they can't actually take it on. 2 Spore Crawlers attacking them. Still so many Lings and Roaches left over that the fighting force here is just too big for Reynor. GG.
And well played. Reynor taking that first game with some really, really solid defense and also really good offense there. It turns out that's a really good style. Kind of tying back to what you were saying, where Reynor might be a difficult player to open up double Stargate Phoenix against.
Yeah, you know, I want to say that Goblin was planning, as I was saying, you know, he's trying maybe to get control over the game. I don't think you forget that Reynor is well known for his Lings, but I guess he thought that he would really be able to scout and adapt. Because imagine if he had scouted and reacted just a tiny bit faster and had 4 Oracles on the Nexus, and he saves it, which also means he maybe has 2 Oracles on the Natural to make it less complicated. Like, I do think that he had a plan, but probably wasn't prepared for that many Lings, that much of a dedication from Reynor, especially on one of our larger maps. But it's like, what is a large map to a Zerg with Lings, right? It's all small when they have speedlings.
Yeah, that's definitely a good point. And I feel like usually a lot of those kind of big Ling floods and stuff might be caught by a Protoss player saying, oh, I'm going to open up with an Adept and send it out across the map and try and get some vision, like how many drones do you make at your natural and your third and everything. But I mean, I think we ended up seeing Goblin go for the Stalker very early on and then go into the Stargate and everything. So it felt like he just didn't have the same scouting tools he would normally have, right?
And actually, speaking of scouting, like he probably didn't think that Reynor was going to go for Overlord speed. And be a little more surprising with his second Phoenix not being scouted and the double Stargate not being scouted. Certainly would be okay. Well, we're gonna have to remake this lobby.
Well, maybe you're overestimating or underestimating Reynor. Maybe Reynor is just saying, I beat you so badly as Zerg, I can beat you as Terran now also.
I mean, he's kind of a cheeky guy, but I don't know if he's that cheeky.
From what I've heard, actually, Reynor has some of the best off races of StarCraft pros. I can't remember. Another one of the pro players was actually telling me that he had unbelievably good off races. And I think it was specifically Terran, but I'm pretty sure he's not playing Terran. Yeah.
I don't think you're allowed to, man. I think the rules say, if anything, they can swap between series, but not between games, right?
That always made me so sad because I always felt like, if you're good enough to play at that level with multiple races, why shouldn't you be able to take advantage of the map vetoes being changed up all of a sudden, in a sense? Like, because usually that's the reason I always hear why you can't switch races in the middle, because your opponent picks maps for your race. But oh well.
You're probably right about that, but I also wonder how many times back in the good old days of MLG open brackets, when there were like legitimately 150 randos who would show up to play, how many times people tried to change their race without telling them, right? And suddenly appear as Terran and then like proxy racks them when they thought they were Zerg or something. Gotta imagine that happened a lot.
That's true. Yeah, I could definitely see that. But then, I mean, you just got to use a bit more attention to pay attention on the loading screen. But all for a silly point. But
yeah,
regardless, I kind of would like to see a bit of a change up here from Goblin. I feel like that game was a pretty hard shutdown, right? I wouldn't mind seeing like a gateway opening or something like that.
Well, you mean like what do you mean by a gateway opener?
A gate, like a Twilight Council or a Robo or something like that. Not like a non-Stargate opening. Sorry, when I think of gateway opening, I think like you're making units out of the gateway besides just, Stargates.
Gotcha.
Producing units, yeah.
I was going to say, you're talking about Resident Enclaves. That was going to be my guess. But no, I'm with you. Like, we are going to go into Submarine when we finally have the correct lobby and the correct races. And it's I think it is, well, okay, to be fair, I didn't watch every single game of the past 2 days, but this has been the least played map as far as I've seen, even when you account for like the B stream. Maybe it makes its way into the third map and we don't get to see it. Otherwise, it's usually just vetoed. But it is the smallest map in the map pool. So, I mean, on one hand, it's kind of scary. It can be scary for either race, right? But if we're talking specifically about Resident Enclaves, them just like one shade appearing in your natural, that's pretty scary.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, and I agree. I haven't really seen this map as much. It seems like it's sort of been submerged at the bottom of the vetoes list from a lot of people. So it'll be kind of an entertaining treat to see how they actually end up playing this out. It's funny also because Reynor is still set to Terran in this lobby.
Not again. Not again.
All right. Well, our admin has realized this, so we're good this time.
Yeah. By the way, I caught your pun, and I hope you realize I gave you a look.
Aw,
submerged.
I'm so glad. Like I said, I'm here to cause you pain, and hopefully your pain is delightful for the viewers. That's more or less my objective today.
Ooh, I think we're getting into a different type of content on Twitch right now, but anyways. It looks like Reynor is finally ready to go, so I'm very curious to see how Submarine plays out. Even when we're talking about other tournaments that we cast, like, I really don't see this very often. It's a very uncomfortable map. And we'll show you exactly why once we actually load in, as Reynor has chosen the correct race. Goblin, I mean, we talked about it a lot before the first game. He has a lot to do here to actually overcome Reynor. And that first game probably didn't set him up that well mentally to do that here on Submarine.
Yeah, I'm hoping he can bounce back from this. I know he's also kind of had obviously they've both only played one series in the group so far, but I know the Goblin didn't exactly have the greatest first series, ended up getting 0-2'd by Vanya, who I think a lot of people would have looked at and been like, this is one of the people you probably have to be able to beat in order to advance out of this group. Like, you probably have to be able to beat a lot of the players that you expect to not be quite toward the top. So I think that Goblin is really, really probably feeling a little bit more pressure to try and make something happen here.
Yeah, the pressure does start to mount after losing to the guys that you think that you have a chance against, right? That's all right. Once again, here we are on Submarine. In the top left for Team Roddy, he is Goblin.
And down here in the bottom right, going for a nice pool first. It is going to be the Red Zerg player, Reynor. He's going to be living up to that team name. Ready to clash ASAP on a small map. And I like that Goblin has got that probe sending itself across the map. And it's going to very, very quickly scout out that there is a very quick pool here from Reynor.
Yeah, of course, you're going to actually get into that main base and see it in, also check if there's a gas, something that really, really, really aggressive. There's not. The drone was hidden so that he wouldn't be tempted to try and block it and then scout. So nice moves there by Reynor. Just starting things off about as aggressive as you really want to be, I would say, without, potentially throwing a game away, just doing something a little silly. It's a very short map, natural to natural. It still requires, I think it's still a 3 building wall for the Protoss. So it's just uncomfortable. It's like Zen. Remember Zen? You used to you would always talk about how Protoss has had to adapt to that map, and then Zerg players are like, well, it doesn't win us games that much anymore, but it's still nice to throw in an early pool just to get them feeling very uncomfortable and having to play to us, because of course it is scary. But Goblin is reacting, quite well, actually. Okay, the Zealot's already out. I was like, wait a minute. No, he's got it.
Yeah, probe is also there with 150 minerals built up to finish up that wall of the Zealot, like you said, is already there, and the probe can go ahead and mineral walk through. Now, this is the kind of fun game that you get to play with the Zealot, where you try and just get some extra chip damage in on these Zerglings without letting them through. But, Reynor does both manage to get through and also softens up one of those gateways, but Zerglings are going to head over to the main base, and this is annoying because now Goblin has to send a Stalker up to the main to deal with the Zerglings, which is actually not right now. It's dealing with the Overlord, but that also means that the other Zerglings can continue to poke away at that wall.
Yeah, it's fairly safe. That probe, good micro there. The wall is actually currently being held by a very courageous probe as the Zealot chases all the lings around. So very nice control so far. You don't want to overreact to that type of stuff, especially not seeing a gas just because it's a small map. You can do exactly what Goblin did. And he did it, I feel like as good as you really can. He didn't lose any probes, right? No, not a single one, not even a scouting probe. And maybe it pushed off his build a little bit. Maybe his pilot count should have been a little bit faster. But yeah, didn't net Reynor too much of a victory there, except maybe, again, taking control of the game. He's also going to go on Overlord speed. He clearly thinks, I would not be surprised if he thought he was the better player and he just knew that he would potentially be bopped by a surprise. So he's like, just get rid of all the surprises and I'll be fine. And that's exactly what this is going to do.
Absolutely. I also don't hate that decision because he ended up having his Overlord go sent in so far early on that he ended up losing it to the Stalker. So now having an Overlord speed upgrade will allow the second Overlord to get there a lot quicker and get that scout out. But Adept comes on in. He's going to shade over to the main base, and Goblin gets a bit of scouting of his own, ends up canceling the shade. At the same time, the Overlord does make its way into the main base of Goblin and scouts out what but a Twilight Council, additional gateways being turned down, and a Robo.
So it feels like it's come back, and this is what Goblin used against Nerchio, believe it or not, in his qualifiers to win. But the Blink build has kind of come back here. I think Zerg players are still more so being like, okay, are you doing Adepts or aren't you? Is there a Dark Shrine coming down with this or aren't you? So the Blink can be a surprise, but it's not a surprise when you count the amount of gateways. The other 2 things I mentioned, it's 4 gateways. With the Blink, it's more than 4 gateways. It's a total of 6. So Reynor still gets to react perfectly to this, basically. And so far, we haven't seen too much success when people know exactly what is on the way.
Yeah, honestly, I believe that this build has potential, but I only believe it because people keep doing it. I have yet to see a lot of that potential, especially when it gets scouted out so early. And let me tell you something, Zombie Grub. A Protoss player is usually not warping in 3-4 Stalkers this early on if they're going for any kind of other Twilight Council opening. So I feel like this should be really, really obvious to Reynor.
Yeah, there are still things that can happen though. I mean, if you underestimate the power of Blink Stalker with the additional blink of the warp, sometimes you lose way too many lings. Okay, well, Blink's not done. Sorry, Stalker. Sometimes you get supply blocked because, of course, your overlords are kind of every which way. Things can still happen, but it looks like Reynor really is getting well set up for this. He's not going to get supply blocked here unless his overlord dies. He's got 2 spine crawlers to help him out and a very good number of lings to start things off. Oh god, oh god.
I'm taking a lot of damage though. Oh my god, that is critical. If he just abandoning the push, I think that is the right decision given how that all just went down, but that is extremely painful. There is not a great transition from here.
No, it's so difficult to transition out of this. Much of the point of this is usually how long it lasts. So if it lasts like 1.5 to 2 minutes, then you could maybe transition out of it. But this has lasted 0. Like it literally didn't even really start. Reynor got on top of it so fast. So Reynor, I mean, he knows how serious this is. He knows how unlikely it is that Goblin's going to try and macro out of it. So he's going to continue pumping units. And he's even got some Ravagers added on. Sure, the Spine Crawlers might not be in the right place, but he has plenty of army, although a lot of it is on the other side of the map right now.
Yeah, I got hopeful for a second because I thought Goblin was maybe looking to try and swing into the main base, but oh my god, Reynor comes in with the Zerglings from behind. Blink is only going to save him for so long as he makes his way out of there with a few of these Stalkers, but majority of them end up falling. A few of them got picked up into the Warp Prism, and the Queens are even there to chase and make sure that Warp Prism can't stick around. And Goblin is on the retreat, already down 0-1. This is not a game that he can afford to lose if he wants to try and make this series work, but well, it looks like he's surrounded in Zombie Grab. Like we said, there's not much of a transition from here.
I like how I forgot Submarine was small. I was like, those lings are on the side of the map. No, they actually were like 2 seconds away, ready for a surround. That was pretty perfectly set up there for Reynor, just forcing the blinks to actually evacuate as opposed to micro. Like right now, if he used blinks to micro against Roach Ravager, that's going to be beautiful. But once again, the link's going to be for a surround, so he's forced to blink back entirely up against the wall as well. So lots of damage being done as the Stalkers go single file to get through there. Goblin knows that's it.